Preparing to live stream for YouTube live. Okay, it's going live, Sudarshan.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Kodi Samaprabha. Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Apara Karuna Sindham Jnanatam Shantarupinam. Shri Chandrasekhara Gurum Pranamami Mudanvaham. Tadandevasi Varyancha Jivodharana Tatparam. Shri Jayendra Gurum Pugyam Pranamami Mudanvaham. Chaturdashavaya Pratam Sanyasam Sumahamatiam. Namami Shankararambham Shivijendra Saraswati. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam. Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Swasti Vachanam. Om Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Parayana Jagadguru Shri Shankaracharya Shri Charanayo Shri Pranama Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Shri Mahatirupurasundari Sameta Shri Chandramaulishwaraya Namaha Swasti Sree Madagila Bhumandala Alankara Trayastrim Satkodi Devatha Sevita Sri Kamakshi Devi Sanata Sri Mate Kambranata Sri Mahadevi Sanata Sri Hastigirinath Sakshatkara Paramadishtana Satyavrata Namankita Kanchi Divya Kshetre Sharada Matha Sustitanam Atulita Sudara Samadurya Kamalasana Kamini Dammilla Sampulla Mallika Malika Nishyanda Makaranda Jari Sauvastika Vangnikumba Vidrumanananda Dundilida Maneshi Mandalanam Anavarada Advaita Vidya Vinodarsikanam Nirantaralankriti Krita Shantidanti Bhumnam Shakala Bhavana Chakra Pratishthavaka Shri Chakra Pratishtha Vikhyada Yasholankritanam Nikila Pashanda Shanda Kantakot Padanena Vishadikrita Veda Vedanta Marga Shanmada Pratishthavakacharyana Srimad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Varya Shri Jagat Guru Srimad Shankara Bhagavat Padacharyana Adhishtane Simhasana Vishikta Srimad Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Samyamindrana Adhishtane Simhasana Vishikta Srimad Chendra Saraswati Samyamindrana Ante Vasi Varya Srimad Shankara Vijayendra Saraswati Shripadanancha Charananayo Shaprachayam Sanjitabuddhancha Namaskurmaha Hari Om Swagatam. Kanchi Kamakoti Seva Foundation Midwest chapter welcomes all the viewers on the live stream, YouTube and Facebook live for this month's Kamakoti Parayana Mandali program. As you all know, the Kamakoti Parayana Mandali program is a monthly event that's been going on for a few years right now, and we have lectures and discourses on various Vedic and Vedantic topics in Sanatana Dharma, and we also have Stotra Parayanams and Tripura Bhajans. We are extremely honored to welcome today's guest speaker, Sri Aswath ji from Columbus, Ohio, who will be giving a discourse on Shraddha. And just an announcement, so on this coming Sunday, December 3rd, we are having the Kritika Mandala Veda Parayanam, or an annual Veda Parayanam that we have been doing for many years right now. And so we are doing it in the Panchamukhi Anjaneya temple in Aurora. Most of you who are in the distribution list would have received an email. The event starts at 3 p.m. We will have Mahanarayana Parayana along with Veda Parayanam by Panditas and also youths and students who have been learning Vedas under Gurus. So please, we welcome you all and join this event and get the blessings of Veda Mata and Veda Vyasa. So a brief introduction on today's speaker, Sri Aashwalaayana. As I said, he's from Columbus, Ohio. He is a retired IT professional with a degree in physics, mathematics, law, and computer science. He is continuing his centuries-old family tradition of pursuit of scholarship in Indian scriptures. He had initial training in Sanskrit from his grandfather, Asthana Vidwan M.S.S. Shastri, the court scholar of the Mysore Palace. Later, he was the disciple of Sri Anantakrishna Gadapati, a professor of Yajurveda in the Bangalore Sanskrit College, under whom he studied the Krishna Yajurveda. Sri Aashwalaayana lectures extensively on Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. He has published many articles and manuals on Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. He has also held seminars and workshops in US, Canada, Mexico, and in India. He regularly teaches the Vedas, Shastras, and Sanskritam. He also propagates Hindu Dharma through conducting Vedic rituals. Presently, he is on the faculty of the Hindu University of America. He was bestowed the title of Samskrita Shri by the World Institute of Vedic Studies. So it's a very impressive resume, Sri Aashwalaayana. We are very extremely honored to welcome you. And without much ado, we pass it on to Sri Aashwalaayana. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddhajnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om. Thank you very much, Sri Sitaramanji, for your kind invitation this evening and asking me to speak on the concept of Shraddha. And I'm also thankful to my brother, Dr. Sanat Kumar in Chicago, for introducing me to Sri Seturaman and also the Kamakoti Parayana Mandali. Thank you very much. In very early times, in the Vedic times, there was a very learned person. And then he was actually a resident of the country of Kosala. The Kosala Desha is, as you know, is the country that was ruled by the Raghu kings, Dasharatha, Rama, and others. And they also have the capital as Ayodhya. And in the present day context, it is in the south central part of Uttar Pradesh in India. And then the Ayodhya is very much in the news, and it actually lies on the banks, both the banks of the ancient name was Sarayu, and today's name is Gagra. And in here, in this Kosala Desha, ages ago, in the Vedic times, there lived a sage by name Aashwalaayana. And this Aashwalaayana is a name that is derived from the name of his father. So his father was Ashwala, and that Ashwala was from the country of Kosala. So he was called as Kosala Aashwalaayana. And this Aashwalaayana, once he approached Parameshti Chaturmukha Brahma Prajapati, the ancient and the first guru, and he goes and asks him, "Sir, teach me the highest knowledge, and then teach me the knowledge of Brahman." So whenever a student approaches and asks the teacher for teaching something, the first question that the teacher always asks is, why do you want to know that? Why do you want to know about this highest Brahman? Because, sir, I have heard that the knowledge of Brahman is supreme, and this is one that is constantly sought after by the wise. And I also understand that it is hidden. And I'm told that whoever knows about Brahman is freed from all impurities. So that means the student who is approaching the teacher is very clear in his mind what he wants. And he has done everything in his power to understand that without having to take the time or bother another person. So he has done enormous amount of tapas. Tapas means contemplation. Tapas means thinking, because the Sanskrit word tapas comes from the root tapa alochane, that means where you deeply think. So what did he think? He started by asking, what is it that is the highest in that we should know? Then he comes to the conclusion, there is a thing called Brahman. Then, yes, there are so many nice things to know. There are so many good things to know. Why should I know this? Then he said that it is because all the wise people are looking for it. So that means if the wise people are taking the time and the effort and the energy to learn, then there must be something very valuable in it. And then why should the wise search for it? Because the very idea of wisdom is that they have wisdom. But even the wise people don't know why is it, because it is hidden. And the only person I can go to is the one who knows this completely, thoroughly, accurately. So let me go and ask Prajapati himself. So he approaches Prajapati and Pitamaha, Brahma, Chaturmukha, all these are his synonyms. So Pitamaha told Aashwalaayana, Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yogat Avaihi. You can come to know about the highest through 4 means, and these are the 4 pillars of spirituality. The 4 pillars of our spirituality is first and foremost Shraddha. That is the subject matter of our discussion today. Now, this Shraddha must actually develop into Bhakti, and that is the second pillar. Then this can be achieved by means of meditation, Dhyana, that is the third pillar. Then all of these things have to be actually experimented, applied in life, and discovered that there is the absolute Parabrahman, and that Parabrahman is none other than I, and that can be done only by means of yoga. So 4 pillars, all of them have to support this edifice of Jnana, Shraddha, faith, Bhakti, devotion, Dhyana, meditation, and yoga, that is concentration and controlling the modifications of the mind. As Patanjali Maharshi says, yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, to control the modifications of the mind. So, hence the first project for Aashwalaayana, and because it is coming from the mouth of Chaturmukha Brahma himself, and that is the first project for all of us also. Hence, when Sri Seturaman actually contacted me, can you speak in our assembly? Then I said, where do I begin? So I began exactly where our ancient sage Aashwalaayana began. That is, first and foremost, let us talk about Shraddha. So what exactly is this Sanskrit word, concept, idea called Shraddha? So let's look at the etymology of this word. The root from which this word is derived is Shrat. Shrat dadati iti Shraddha. That means where you place your heart in. That's the literal meaning of Shraddha. Wherever you put your heart and your mind and your personality completely, you invest all of that, then that is Shraddha. So the next question is, in this context, in the context of the question of Aashwalaayana Maharshi, where should we put our heart in? You remember he asked for what is the highest. So the highest is the Supreme Being. And this Supreme Being, who is this Supreme Being? What is this Supreme Being? That's where we have to go back to Bhagavad Gita and Gita Acharya. And in Gita, in verse number 9 of chapter 8, Bhagavan Sri Krishna tells us what is this Supreme Being upon whom we should actually have Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana and Yoga. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram. One who is the omniscient, the most ancient one. Anushasitaram, the one who is the controller. Who is Anoraneyamsam, who is subtler than the subtlest. And that entity, Yaha Anusmaret, whoever is doing Dhyana and whoever is investing the Shraddha on that constantly, who is Sarvasya Dhataram, that is one who is the support of all. Achintya Rupam, the inconceivable divine form, Aditya Varnam, brighter than the brightest, Tamasah Parastat, beyond the darkness of ignorance. I've given a straight translation of this verse. For more, you please refer to any Bhagavad Gita commentary, verse number 9 in chapter 8. So this begs another question. Why Aashwalaayana asked this question, and how did this question even occur to him? Because 99% of the people, whenever they go and ask for question, they go and ask for financial advice, or they go to a physician and ask for medical advice. How many people ask for spiritual advice? Very rarely. So what was the background with which Aashwalaayana came to it? Because Aashwalaayana had immense scholarship and learning. He was in fact the disciple of the great Rishi Shaunaka, the direct disciple of Vedavyasa. And Aashwalaayana was also the son of another great Rishi called Gritsamada, who gave us the Ganapati mantras. For example, Gananantva Ganapatim Havamahe, many of people know, and the Ganapati Atharvashesha mantras, these were all given to us by Aashwalaayana's father. So you can imagine his family, from which background he comes. Not only that, the glory is not just that he came from a noble family. He himself was a great karmakandin. That means he was the one who was doing yajnas, yagas, pujas, everything. And also he codified the entire procedures of how the various rituals have been done. Grihya Sutra, how you should do domestic rituals, and Shraddha Sutra, how you should do the rituals driven by the various Vedas for the good of the nation, for the welfare of the society, for the stability of the king. And so many of those manuals he had written. In fact, even to this day, those people whose family Veda is Rigveda, 90% of them follow the Aashwalaayana Sutra. That's why in their Pravara also say, Aashwalaayana Sutra Rakshakadhyayi. So such is our hero today, not an ordinary person. Even in 2023, whoever is following Rigveda has to take the name of Aashwalaayana. And that Aashwalaayana, who has perfected in the Karma Kanda, wants to know about knowledge. It is because though he had perfected the Karma Kanda, he was not satisfied, because all the rituals do assure us prosperity in this life, and it will also assure heaven hereafter. But both prosperities in this life on the earth here and the heaven, and both of them are finite, they are limited. Therefore, Aashwalaayana, even though he was very well versed with all the rituals, was seeking for something higher. That is why he is asking Varishtham, that which is the highest. And he, because he is from the Rigveda, he was very well versed with the great hymn Shraddha Suktha of the Rigveda. In fact, in my Veda chanting classes, Shraddha Suktha is one of the very important suktas that I teach. Shraddha Suktha, Medha Suktha, Saraswati Suktha, because these are all the hymns given to knowledge. So the Devatha of this Shraddha Suktha is, her name is Shraddha Devi. It is another epithet for the Yajna Devi. And Shraddha Devi and Yajna Devi or Yajna Devi is a consort of Mahavishnu in the form of Padmanabha. See, Mahavishnu has 24. It's called as Chaturvimshati Murti. Of that, Padmanabha, many of you who do the Achamana would know this. Keshavaya, Narayana Swaha, Madhavaya Swaha. And going down the list, you come to Padmanabha Namaha. That Padmanabha's consort is called Shraddha Devi. And she is the Devatha of this Sukta. She is also called Yajna Devi. And then this beautiful Sukta was actually revealed to a Rishika. Rishika is a female Rishi. Her name was Shraddha Kamayani. And this Shraddha Kamayani is the Rishi. And the Shraddha Devi is the Devata of the Sukta. And this Shraddha Kamayani, the Rishika to whom it was Shraddha, the idea of Shraddha was revealed. It was actually the granddaughter of the Devaguru Brihaspati. This hymn, Shraddha Sukta, extols Shraddha and lays down the process of solidifying our Shraddha. Shraddham pratarhavamahe, Shraddham madhyandinam pari, Shraddham suryasya nimruchi. That means in the morning I will invoke Shraddha havamahe. Who ahvayate is the root. I invoke Shraddha Devi in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. So what exactly does this mean? Invoking in the morning, invoking in the afternoon, invoking in the evening. It is not just a ritual invoking. It is where we take the three concepts of Shraddha. That is intuition, and then reasoning, and experience. I'll come to that in a minute. These are the three processes by which our Shraddha is confirmed, affirmed, and becomes valid. And how can we get this? We can get this by Nithyakarmanushtana generates Shraddha. That is why Aashwalaayana lays down the prerequisite to get Shraddha, which is the first pillar of spirituality, that is Nithyakarmanushtana. Every day, every one of us will have to get up in the morning and the evening. We have to offer prayers, and those of us who have been initiated into Gayatri Mantra must do Sandhya, and then must also worship Sun through the Gayatri Mantra and develop this Shraddha. So the first point we have to make is, for the sake of developing Shraddha, first and foremost, we have got to develop an intuition. And this intuition can be got by means of Nithyakarmanushtana. Every single day, we have got to resolve and then ask for a capacity, an ability, the adhikara to acquire Shraddha. So, because, remember my preamble, why we should do it so assiduously every single day? Because this Brahmajnana is followed by the wise, number one. Number two, it is hidden. It is very difficult to go approach that. So we have to approach it with a very strong intuition. So then the intuition becomes stronger and stronger with daily anushtana. So the tapasvi, that means one who does this every single day, he starts visualizing the infinite bliss in his own heart. So sparks of vision will start coming in our heart as we do the Nithyakarmanushtana very mindfully, knowing the meaning of every word of the mantra that we are chanting. Then what happens? It gets crystallized by reason and grace of Guru. Therefore, it's not mere reasoning is enough, because mere reasoning results in skepticism. So you have to also have the grace of Guru and the commitment to do the Nithyakarmanushtana. And then how does the transformation take place? How do we overcome this skepticism? Let us look at an anecdote. You all very well know Swami Vivekananda, and in Purvashrama, before he took sannyasa, his name was Narendranath Datta. This Narendranath Datta had an uncle. His name was Ramachandra Datta. So in the year 1880, I talked about Aashwalaayana, probably it's prehistoric times. So you may say that it's all fictitious. But that Swami Vivekananda really lived and walked on the earth. There is no doubt about it. So that's why I'm taking an anecdote from a person who is undoubtedly, undeniably historical. So in the year 1880, Narendranath's uncle Ramachandra Datta, who had 3 children, all the 3 children died of smallpox. I want you to imagine the amount of grief that a person would experience if all his children at once die and they died of chickenpox. That means an untimely akala marana. And that happened, and it actually completely immersed Ramachandra Datta in great grief. So in search of peace of mind, Ramachandra Datta wandered here and there and came to know that there lived a Satpurusha, a Santa in Dakshineshwara. So Ramachandra Datta stayed with this Santa, who was actually Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all the sorrow of Ramachandra Datta was dissolved. This was where, for the first time in his life, he had a first-hand experience of having peace. All of us talk about Shanti, and we may have some flashes of peaceful times. But what is the nature of our life? 99% of the time, we are restless. But for Ramachandra Datta, he discovered that in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, there was abiding Shanti, and this resulted in his bhakti for his Guru, and this bhakti is a second pillar of spirituality. Someday we will discuss that. So for the transition from Shraddha to Bhakti, somebody has to push us. And that entity which pushes us is that guide, the Guru. So the Shraddha, expression of the Shraddha in an abstract entity called Parabrahman is not easy, but our expression of Shraddha in a live Sadguru, in a live Guru, then what happens through the Guru, who is concrete and right there living in front of us, will actually lead us to the absolute and that which is only available to intuition, Parabrahman. Therefore, the Sveshasvatara Upanishad, a very great Upanishad, says, Yasya deve parabhaktihi, yatha deve tatha gurau, tasyayate katita yarthaha prakashante mahatmanaha. That means only those who have implicit bhakti and shraddha in both Ishvara and Guru, real or virtual. In the real terms, let us say Adishankara. In the real terms, we will say Adishankara and then Mahaperivar and all that. And virtually, we will say Bhagavan Sadashiva, Mahavishnu. All the intricacies of the knowledge will be revealed to us. Let us ask one more question. How does our Shraddha arise in the first place? It is because in all the people who have come to ask this question, the very fact that to ask the question, why have I got dukkha in my life? Why there should be suffering at all? Is there any escape from suffering? Is it possible for me to experience abiding peace? Whoever asked that question, What is the basis of that, asking the question? It is not merely suffering, but it is the samaskaras or the conditionings that this particular individual has gone through in this life and in the past lives, and these samaskaras are dormant. When suitable conditions happen, when suitable environment occurs, then the Shraddha is awakened. There is a beautiful story in the Kathopanishads, which many of you may be familiar with. In Kathopanishad, this householder by name Vajashravas was offering gifts that was not worthy. He was giving emaciated, useless cows as dana. His son, his name was Nachiketa, he was a very thoughtful, introspective person. So he looked at his father giving away useless cows as dakshina and dana, and then what good such tainted charity can do to my father? This is what he was thinking. See the beginning of Shraddha, how it awakens. What was the samskara of Nachiketa? The samskara of Nachiketa is when we give a dana to anybody, it must be worthwhile and useful to the recipient. Valuable and useful to the recipient. We cannot just give away what we don't want. This is not a garage sale where we just throw away our junk and somebody buys it. Very, very good things have to be given. So Kathopanishad says, Tamha Kumaram Shraddha Avivesha. Shraddha Avivesha means Shraddha entered into him. So how does Shraddha enter into us? It is when, by means of Nithyakarmanushtana, by means of the grace of the Guru, when the samaskaras are done, when the conditionings suitable for getting Shraddha is there in our personality, then Shraddha actually comes out. In the time of Bhagavan Buddha, in the city of Rajagruha, Rajagruha was one of the cities in Uttar Pradesh that Bhagavan Buddha used to go quite often to lecture. In that Rajagruha, there lived a grihastha, a householder. He was known to distribute food to the destitute people. So destitutes in Sanskrit is called anatha. And food in Sanskrit is called pinda. It has got a wrong connotation because in Shraddha, not Shraddha, in Shraddha, in the annual ceremonies, we actually make balls of rice and we call it as pinda. In Sanskrit, pinda simply means food, edible food. So he was giving away a lot of food to destitute people, and therefore he came to be known as Anatha Pindaka. Anatha Pindaka means one who distributes food generously to the destitute people. This noble act of dana that he was doing constantly in his life, for Anatha Pindika, got so fine culture, so much so that the spirit of enlightenment had entered into his being. So this is another important being. If the spirit of the Shraddha has to enter into our mind, there has to be three prerequisites: yajna, dana, tapas. When there is worship, when there is charity, and there is contemplation, Shraddha, which is dormant in our hearts, will actually find an expression. So the Buddha was scheduled to visit Rajagriha. Anatha Pindika had a brother-in-law. And that brother-in-law, he told casually to Anatha Pindika, Bhagavan Buddha is coming to Rajagriha. Anatha Pindika did not know that. Anatha Pindika jumped up from his seat and said, Buddha? Did you say Buddha? Yes, I said Buddha. He asked twice, "Did you say Buddha? Did you say Buddha?" "Yes, I said Buddha." Anathapindika was so overwhelmed that he repeated the question thrice. There is a text called Vinaya Pitaka. It's a Pali text, a very beautiful Pali text in Buddhism. And this Vinaya Pitaka talks about this episode. Anathapindika started saying, even the word, the sound called Buddha is very hard to come by in the world. Is it not so? Brahmajnana, how many people hear that? Rarely. A few people who are devoted to studying our Vedic scriptures might have heard of that. Otherwise, it is totally strange. Anathapindika was so excited. He said, "Can I go now and see the Lord? Arhat," that means worthy of worship, the perfected Buddha. Brother-in-law said, "Not now. Tomorrow early." Anathapindika laid down to sleep for the night. He got up 3 times during the night thinking that it was daybreak. Is that not in your own experience? You have gone to India, you want to come back to United States. Usually the flights start at 3 a.m. in the morning. You have got to leave the house at 12:30 or so. Then your family tells you, "Why don't you take an hour's nap?" You can hardly sleep. Every 10 minutes you will get up and say, "Is it 12 o'clock yet?" So the intensity to catch a flight is there. What would be the state of an intensity when you are to meet the Buddha? So Anathapindika could hardly sleep and kept on waking up. And this eagerness for Guru and Shastra is the manifestation of Shraddha. If by saying the name of your Guru, if by saying the name of your Devata, you wake up even from slumber in alertness, that means there is Shraddha. So, when the word Bhagavad Gita, when the word Sri Krishna, if that takes away my sleep, then I can say I have a state of Shraddha Vesha. The Shraddha has entered into me and ready to come out. Let's go back to our Ramachandra Datta, uncle of Narendranath. His Shraddha in Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was such, just as Anathapindika brother-in-law kept on talking about the Buddha, just as Anathapindika after that kept on talking about the Buddha and his teaching, Ramachandra Datta was also talking all the time about Sri Ramakrishna. So many heard, few listened, fewer still even saw Sri Ramakrishna. Even less were those who became his disciples. I have to make a confession here. I have lived in Bangalore. I had every opportunity to go if I wanted to see Periyar. But I always had an excuse. I am busy, I've got work, I've got family and all that. And in his lifetime, I did not visit. This is what actually Bhagavad Gita also says. When the Shraddha has not manifested, even if the Paramaguru is right next door from our house, we will not see them. Because the Shraddha Vesha had not happened. One day, Ramachandra Datta told his nephew Narendranath, there lives a wonderful sadhu at Dakshineshwara. His words are very sweet. Why don't you come with me and visit him? He is the priest at the Kali Mandir. Immediately Narendranath replied, someone who worships images, he cannot be good. Remember, Narendranath was an extraordinary scholar, very learned, an avid reader. And he said, I have studied Kant, I have studied Hegel, Hume, and such brilliant European philosophers. What can an illiterate man who is worshipping Kali, the image, one who is worshipping a stone, who does not know English, what can he teach me? This exchange between the uncle and son was in the year 1880. The time was not ripe. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 29, Bhagavan Krishna says, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam. There is one who looks upon him as a marvel. Ramachandra Datta is looking upon Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as a marvel. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Another likewise speaks of him as a marvel. Anatha Pindaka speaks of the Buddha as a marvel. Ascharyavat chainam anyam shrunoti. Another one hears of him as a marvel. Today we listen and hear about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, about Kanchi Paramacharya, about Adi Shankara as marvels. Shrutvapi yenam veda nachaiva kaschita. Even after hearing, even after seeing, there are people who don't know, because the Shraddha has not come up. This was the state of the mind of Narendranath. Shrutvapi, even though his own uncle, who had a first-hand experience of getting absolute paramashanti in the wake of his losing all his children, not a small calamity. With all these things, the skeptic mind of Narendranath was a barrier, and Shraddha was completely suppressed. November of 1881, the following year, Sri Ramakrishna was invited to Narendranath's neighbor. His neighbor's name was Surendranath Mishra, Surendranath Mitra. Surendranath Mitra invited Narendranath. At that point of time, 18 years old, he was preparing for the FA exam. That was a prerequisite to go into graduation. That meeting completely transformed Narendranath. Being in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, just being in the presence of Ramakrishna, it made Vivekananda out of a Narendranath. This is how a person who is got samskara, that samskara is waiting for an opportunity to come out. And when it comes out, Shraddha is ignited. So for a moment, friends, pause and think, how can I bring up that Shraddha in me? Look at the preparation. Look at the enormous preparation required by Aashwalaayana. The fact that Narendranath had studied Kant, Hegel, Hume, and all the European philosophers had prepared the ground for Shraddha. It is not that he rejected all his earlier studies, it prepared him for the awakening of this Shraddha, and that the awakening, the intermediate catalytic state, was the manifestation of intuition. Now, at this point also, it is still not, Shraddha is not stable. Mere intuition is not adequate, because it may not be grounded on reason. So without carefully reasoning our intuitions, then the Shraddha will be unstable and it will be superstitious. How many times does this not happen? We just meet somebody and then they speak very sweetly with me, and then I immediately conclude, oh, he's a wonderful person, he's an excellent person. worthy of my lifelong friendship. And then very soon the colors will come out, because they can speak very sweetly. In fact, there is a Subhashita which says, the person you go, immediately he will ask you, how are you? He will stand up from this seat, Jhatiti pruchati kaushalam. He will ask you how you are, and the very picture of gracefulness and the very picture of elegance. But then intuitively you get attracted to him, but that attraction should be validated by reason. Because without reasoning, Shraddha will be unstable and it will also become superstitious. So let us fast forward the life of Swami Vivekananda. By now, his intuition has changed into Shraddha. It has changed into Bhakti for his Guru. It has changed into the yoga of uniting himself with the Parabrahman. And he has already perfected his Dhyana. So a fully mature spiritual person standing on the 4 firm legs of Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana, and Yoga, that Swami Vivekananda once, during his travels, on invitation, visits Maharaja Mangal Singh Prabhakar of Alwar. Alwar is one of the principalities of the present-day Rajasthan. The Maharaja had absolutely no faith in Murti Puja. Remember, the same was the situation with Vivekananda in his Purvashrama as Narendranath. So the Maharaja had absolutely no faith. In a very derisive tone, he told Swamiji, you see, I really cannot worship wood, earth, stone, metal, like all these naive people. Now, he is in the presence of a very eminent person. The tejas and the charm and the power of the presence of Swamiji cannot be easily overlooked. He mellows a little bit and says, does this mean that I will not get liberated or I will not go to heaven because I am not doing Murti Puja? Swamiji thought the time was not ripe to give an answer. See, a lot of times people come and ask, please teach me the highest. Please teach me about Brahman. But they are not ready, because the Shraddha Avivesha has not happened. This happens to me all the time. Over the last 50 years, I have been teaching Veda with all great gusto. People will come and join 1-2 classes, then they drop out, which is fine. I have no problem with that, because the samskara is not there, the Shraddha is not there, the resolve required to stick with that for a length of time is absent. So such people we have to let be. In fact, Krishna himself says, na joshayat prajnaha. Don't go after them and then make them restless. If they're happy in their worldly life, leave them alone. That is what Swamiji also practiced. So because this pointed question was asked, because I am not doing the Murti Puja, does it mean that I will not get liberated? Does it mean that heaven is denied to me? Swamiji very politely replied, everyone should follow the religious ideal according to their Shraddha. So we must follow whatever ideal is there according to my Shraddha, because the Shraddha is a broad band. And some people are in the beginning, in the small beginnings. There are some people who are very, very adept in that. So depending on where you are in that spectrum, that is where you go. That's what Swamiji is saying. He must have had in his mind verse number 3 of chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, which says, Sattvan Rupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata the faith of all humans, it is actually coming out because of the nature of their mind. The faith of all humans, where this confirmation, where this affirmation with their intuition, it depends on the nature of the mind. Shraddha mayoyam purushaha yo yash shraddha saeva saha. All the people, they have faith in something. It depends on the nature of what their faith is. And that is what they are. There is somebody who is totally dedicated for wealth. It doesn't matter everything else. They don't care about their family. They don't care about children. They don't care about society. They just want to amass wealth. Power is another thing. We are seeing that every day in the world politics. For sake of power, people will do anything. That is this Shraddha. So Krishna is saying that is what they are and that is what they will see. Somebody sees a murti as a stone. Another person will see a murti as God. So the interesting situation is, should a guru just be satisfied by telling whatever is your tendency, that is what you do? Then he is not a guru. He is somebody who doesn't care, isn't it? You do what you want. Swamiji is not like that. Maharaja has said that he has no faith, but he has to kindle the faith in him. This intuition, will I go to heaven if I don't worship the Murti, was an important question. That means there is Shraddha in him. Only that Shraddha hasn't formed itself. This is where the Guru will now come and reason. So the second important part for the affirmation of Shraddha after intuition is reasoning. Let us see how Vivekananda handled this. He was looking around in the room where they were sitting. On the wall, there was a portrait of the Maharaja. It was hanging on the wall. There was a servant standing nearby because, Maharaja, so he has to have a few servants ready to obey his orders. So there was one servant who was standing right next to this portrait of Maharaja, waiting for what order the Maharaja may give him. Swamiji asked that servant, whose portrait is that? As though he didn't know. But he asked, whose portrait is that? Why, sir? The servant replies, why, sir? This is of our Maharaja. Then Swamiji told the servant, spit on it. The servant was absolutely shocked. The servant was absolutely shocked. Then Swamiji turned towards Maharaja. And then he looked at him, turned back to the servant, and said, why? Why can't you spit? After all, it is only a piece of paper. Then the servant said, how can it be just a piece of paper, sir? It is our Maharaja. So this Swamiji turned to Maharaja and said, see, Maharaja, what does your servant see in that picture hanging on the wall? Maharaj, your servant is seeing you in the picture, though you are not bodily there. What a powerful way of reasoning. So when you see a murti in the temple, How can Shraddha, your Shraddha for Ishvara, how can it transform itself into Bhakti unless you see the actual Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Rama, Shiva in that stone in the temple? How can you ever do that? So Shraddha emanates from intuition through tapas and austerities such as Nithyakarmanushtana. Shraddha becomes firm. It becomes dridam. Then by careful reasoning, all the doubts are resolved and they are erased completely. Otherwise, samshayatma vinashyati. A person who is always doubting will be ruined. When in Shraddha, we are completely free from doubt and judgment, then the Shraddha becomes unshakable. No one can dislodge it. I'm sure many of you, students of English literature, would have heard and read a very great English poet by name William Blake. William Blake wrote two extraordinary books called the Songs of Innocence and the Songs of Experience. Blake was a 18th, 19th century English poet, painter, and also a printmaker. He wrote a beautiful poem of how we are to suspend all disbelief if Shraddha has to transform itself into something very firm, something that is unshakable, something that will ultimately lead to that highest that Aashwalaayana was in search of. Here is this beautiful poem. It's called The Auguries of Innocence. In this poem, Blake writes, he who mocks the infant's faith shall be mocked in age and death. I have a 8-year-old and a 4-year-old grandchildren. And I sit with them. And I sit and play with their toys. They will make a fake tea with those toys. Very sincerely, they take the tea and drink it. It's actually a toy. You have to play that role. Otherwise, we will destroy the Shraddha of our children. He who mocks the infant's faith shall be mocked in age and death. He who shall teach the child to doubt, the rotting grave shall never get out. He who respects the infant's faith triumphs over hell and death. If the sun and moon should doubt, they would immediately go out. What a powerful way of transforming Shraddha without losing the softness of your heart. Because sometimes Shraddha is very, very stern. Wordsworth writes it. Duty, the stern voice of God. It need not be so. It can be as beautiful as you play with your child. Reasoning must validate Shraddha and not destroy it. That is the mantra. So we must work on our reasoning ability to affirm the Shraddha. Then the culmination of Shraddha is in experience. Ultimately, it must go into experience, is when the Paramadhyana is actually reflected in our heart. Now imagine you build a house facing east. This is one of the metaphorical reasons why we Hindus want to live in a house which faces east. Because in the east we have the windows. The rising sun is the rising Bhaskara, rising sun. The Sanskrit term is called Bhaskara. Bha means jnana. Bhaskara means one who creates a jnana in us. Bha jnanam karoti iti bhaskara. Therefore, what we do is, if you build a house facing east, and then your blinds are not covering the window, when the rising sun comes, where does the light fall? It falls on your western wall, isn't it? Take that as a metaphor. When Shraddha, we have turned towards knowledge, towards jnana, the bhaskara of jnana, the jnana maker, by merely turning towards jnana, by now one who has got Shraddha and he has affirmed it with reason, without any effort, the sun and his light from the eastern window will fall on the western sky, on the western wall, your heart. The mere turning is yourself. So we can draw a few conclusions. Just as Shraddha grounded in intuition. Let me give you a Sanskrit term for intuition. This intuition is called pratibha. It is intuition along with intelligence, is pratibha. When Shraddha is grounded in pratibha, which is tested by Shraddha grounded in reason, it is called vichara. And it is affirmed by Shraddha grounded in experience, anubhava. Then the person can become a Buddha, a person can become a Vivekananda, a person can become an Aashwalaayana, and then for that person, the swa anubhuti, that means this Shraddha will transform itself into a pure knowledge, and for him, Bhakti becomes a second nature. Dhyana becomes effortless. Yoga becomes natural. And with one Shraddha, just like a chair having 4 legs, you hold only one leg and pull it to you, pull it near you, all the 4 legs will come towards you. Like that, when there is Shraddha, and when Shraddha is actually grounded in Pratibha, tested by Vichara, and then confirmed by Anubhava, for such a person, whatever question you ask, do you want to realize Brahman? It is there. Do you want to realize your Ishta Devata? That is there. Do you want to acquire Dhyana? It is right at your hands. And all this sums up Bhartuhari in his beautiful Vairagya Suktham, Mangala Shloka. Dikkaladya anavacchinnananta chinmatra murtaye swanubhutye kamanaya namashantaya tejase. The key word is swanubhutye kamanaya. Mana means measure. The only metric is experience. And behind experience, there has to be reasoning. And behind reasoning, there has to be intuition. When all these 3 things are there, then Shraddha becomes a very, very beautiful second nature to the person who is striving for it. Hari. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sethuraman sir, for...
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sree ji. What a wonderful, very engaging and a very powerful lecture, but very nicely set through so many episodes. Starting from the episode of Sage Aashwalaayana approaching Lord Brahma and asking for the path towards Brahmajnanam, and interviewing stories such as Swami Vivekananda's early days in the path towards spiritualism, and then later on when he becomes realized, him giving this wonderful lesson to the Maharaja of Alwar. Those are very powerful episodes for us to remember and remind ourselves that we need that awakening. There's a small fire there. Maybe it is a hidden fire, but it needs to be awakened. And like you said, Shraddha, when it becomes grounded in various forms through Bhakti, through experience, Anubhavam, through tapas, through vichara, atma vichara, and so on, only then it can result in the final experience or the ananda state. So, very to me, what was very appealing was that you were able to quote from so many texts, whether it is Bhartuhari's Vairagya Suktham or Bhagavad Gita, or from other Mahans' lives, Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda, and so on. I think it was really a very Paramabhagyam to have been a part of this Shravanam, and hopefully it will light up a spark in us at some point. And like you said, we all need that push, and whether the push comes from the Guru through reasoning, as we try to reason out of getting involved in whether it is Atma Vichara or other Bhakti Marga aspects, we need that push, gentle push. Sometimes it is a very harder push, but I think we got a small glimpse of what lies, and I'm praying that we'll hopefully have the good fortune to have more of your lecture talks in the future. On behalf of KKSF, our extreme gratitude for you for having taken the time to prepare for this lecture. Like you said, I think we're also very indebted to Dr. Sant Kumar, your brother, who introduced us long ago, many years ago. In fact, before our 2017 Maharudram function. And so I feel very fortunate that we were able to get you over to talk to us and give us a lecture talk. Thank you. And again, we also would like to thank all our viewers who joined. And for the benefit of some of the other viewers who have joined us on Zoom today, we also have this lecture available on YouTube. It will be under our live channel stream, and we will just place the link there. It is under our website. If you go to our YouTube channel and just type KKSF Midwest, you will come across these lectures. We'll also share this link shortly on the Zoom chat window. Secondly, we would like to make an announcement. This Sunday, as Sri Ramji said, this Sunday we have our annual Kritika Mandala Paranam function, which is being held at the Panchamukhi Hanuman Temple here in Aurora. We hope that we will be able to have the satsangam of multiple Veda Panditas. In fact, there are Veda Panditas coming from Indianapolis and hopefully also from Detroit and from Bloomington in Illinois, apart from local Panditas from Chicagoland. So they'll be chanting Taittiriya Upanishad, Mahanana Upanishad, and Ganaparayanam, Kramaparayanam, and so on, as well as young students who are learning Vedam in a Gurumukam fashion. So we invite all of you to join us. It will be at the Hanuman Temple on Sunday, 3 o'clock. Sorry. We look forward to your satsangam there. And again, we are thankful to all of you for joining this satsangam. And we do have these monthly Kamakoti Parayana Mandali programs. So we invite you to join us in the future as well, or follow us on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Shankara. Namaste, sir. Thank you.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, sir. Thank you very much. I'll turn off the recording here. And meanwhile.